Welcome to Yes, Quit Your Day Job. On this episode, Seven sits down with Matty Corvin, frontman of Corvins Breed. They dive into the making of his album Misanthropy, collaborating with Nero Bellum of Cyclone 9, and the journey from small clubs to bigger stages. Matty also shares what it's like working behind the scenes on tour and why patience is one of the most important tools an artist can have. Let's get into it.
All right. Welcome back to Yes, Quit Your Day Job. Real talk for music industry creatives. Today's guest is somebody I've known for a long time, somebody whose work pushes the edge of industrial metal. He's the founder and frontman of the band Corvins Breed. His latest record is Misanthropy, which is produced by a mutual friend of ours, Nero Bellum of Cyclone 9. He's been turning heads with the intensity, the honesty, the theatrical live shows. But what makes the story even more interesting is that it's not just an art. He's not just an artist. He also works behind the scenes. He's been just really put, kind of one thing I'm a big fan of, but he's been putting himself out there in the industry, whether it's being part of the crew, driving buses, hauling gear. Like there's such an importance to being in the room when things are happening. And he's definitely embodied that. And we even most recently, it's been a little while now, but I had a chance to direct a music video for him, one of his singles, Straight to the Curb. So, welcome my friend Matty Corvin. Matty, what's up, buddy?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I guess just getting started, if you want to introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Basically, I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades. I've been doing Corvins Breed now for 11 years.
Wow, okay.
And throughout time, I got to meet and build relationships with people. And then I started doing work for other bands. Like you said, doing tech work, driving, assistant tour managing, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And so, I'm constantly always staying active within music in some way, shape, or form.
Very cool. Being out on the road, like what is probably one of the most memorable experiences you've had recently?
Recently, it's a tough one because you're just on the go so much and just a lot happens and everything just kind of becomes a blur, especially like
Yes,
with my position. A lot of the times, like our schedules are so hectic, so a lot of the times it's like one of the last tours I did, we were just doing like we were traveling in a van and we had hotels every single night.
Nice.
Sometimes we would get there at the hotels at like 2 a.m, and then we'd have to be out in like lobby call was at like 7. So it just a short amount of time. So it gets very chaotic and like I said, everything becomes a blur. So, but to answer your question, I think the most memorable part recently is probably I would say probably seeing my friends, honestly, like seeing friends and I have friends all over the country, so every time those people come out, you always create new memories with those people.
Definitely. Speaking of memories, you mentioned hotels, and I immediately had a flashback to the scariest hotel I've ever stayed in, which was with you in New York City. So,
That's right.
God, that was that was so. Just to let everybody know, so basically, I was my band Seven Factor. We were on tour with Cyclone 9, and it was at the tail end of COVID, but there had been, it wasn't confirmed, but there was like a little bit of a scare that somebody may have been tested positive on our bus, and we weren't, and so it turned out not to be, but I wanted to play it safe, and we had a couple of days off, so I left the bus, And instead of sleeping there, Matty, who was on tour with us, he wasn't riding in our bus, but he was with you were with Al Frankenstein on that, right?
Yeah.
And so he was there, and he'd gotten a hotel room, and I was like, bro, let me just bunk with you, man. I don't want to be on the COVID bus. And like, I don't even know how to describe that hotel. So like, I'm kind of a big dude, and the room was not big enough for both of us to like,
No,
we had to, they gave us a mattress, but it wasn't a mattress. It was the spring, like,
it's like a cot.
it was like, it was like a cot, but it was like a spring cage looking thing that folded up. There
Yeah.
was no mattress. So they gave us that. That's what I slept on. There was one bathroom, which was like down the hall, which was also the
Yep.
shower.
The
And
community bathroom.
yeah, it was like for the whole building. That building had to be over 100 years old. In order to get to, like, if either of us needed to get up, I had to get up and fold my little torture cot so that Matty could leave the room. Like, it was, and it was like a few $100s for this fucking room. I remember that too. But we were like, where is it? In Manhattan? I think we were like right near the Google building or something.
Yeah, I remember actually walking inside this place, and parking was just atrocious because out there you have to get like go through a parking garage. And I remember there was actually a couple of places that gave us a hard time. Um, but I remember walking through the doors, and it was like a prison. It was insane. It was like you had to like buzz through, like, I think it was like a couple doors.
Yeah. That was that takes I've been all over the world touring, and that was the scariest hotel I've ever been in. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But you and I have known each other a long time, just over the years through the scene. Look,
Yeah.
you mentioned you've had Corvins Breed for 11 years. Like, looking back to when you first started, what feels most different now than it did then?
I mean, the music industry, time in general, has just changed so much. I remember back when I started, and as far as where I come from in Providence, Rhode Island, it was very clicky, and it was like you had to be pop punk, metalcore, or deathcore, and if you weren't any of those, like, you were like an alien, and it was really hard to break through the scene. But I would say that now that time has progressed over the years, I've been doing it for so long. At first it was something I just wanted to do, and then it just got really serious, really fast, and it's kind of like it's more of a job now. These days, back in the day, it was just fun, but then now it's just all, everything's all kind of corporate and that sort of thing, and it's got to be at the same time, if you want to keep the circus rolling, if you will. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade that for the world, though. I I love doing what I do, and I will continue to do it even if it kills me.
Wait, you so take us back to the beginning. You mentioned Providence, like what, and there's a lot of, so you mentioned like pop punk and all these different kinds of bands. What made you
Yeah.
want to start Corvin's Breed in that environment?
I just wanted to do something a little different. I just got tired of seeing all these bands that would just kind of go up on stage, and they wouldn't really have they would just be going on stage in the clothes that they woke up in, it seemed.
Just a jeans and
And
t-shirt. Yeah.
yeah. And so I just want to give people a show. And I'm like, these local shows, there was like, I don't know, $10 a ticket or something, or door fee, $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why? I feel like for $10 I'm not being very entertained, and $10 now is nothing, but it's I'm going to see a show. Time is money. Why? Yes, there's music and they're performing, but I feel like something extra could always be done. And I feel like by me stepping up to the plate and putting a little more into it is what made the word kind of go around a lot faster.
Right.
So
Did you ever play the living room in Providence?
no, living room was way before my time,
Okay.
unfortunately.
That was one of so with my old band Human Factors Lab, that was one of the, if not the first venue we ever played outside of Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so we came from Florida and we got invited up. There was a band we'd met through MySpace called Absinthe, and they invited us up there and we did a little thing with them and Bile, if you remember Bile.
Yes. Yep. I
And
remember Absence too.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we played that show with them, and we did like we did Providence, the living room, we did Boston, we did New York City. I think that was it. There may have been one or two other. I think maybe there was a Hartford, but it was just that little area, just a little mini tour. But it was like
Right.
our first time ever leaving Florida. We'd kind of outgrown Florida a little bit, and we were spreading our wings. And I remember there was just like a pole in the middle of the stage, and it wasn't like a stripper pole. It was like a holding up the building kind of pole,
Right. I've definitely played some venues like that.
Yeah, it was one of those for sure. Um, so I think you and I remember us talking about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the name and the imagery comes from like a fascination with crows. Is that right?
Yeah.
What is it about that symbolism that speaks to you in your art?
Um, well, crows are something that people just, you think of animals, and it's not something people really talk about. Um, but they're actually really interesting creatures, at least to me. I liked how they always they clean up after the dead carcasses, like roadkill and stuff like that, and it's super important to the environment. And I think there's something special about it, and I always felt like I kind of resonated with that because um you know I always felt like I was almost like the black sheep. I mean, hell, I wouldn't even say that I fit into the industrial scene, you know? Um, so that's something that was just always a part of me, and I was just kept very close.
Okay. Um, eh, Moving on a little bit. So you've called Misanthropy therapeutic. What was happening in your life that made this record so personal for you?
Um, I didn't go into the record with as far as the writing process, and I'm like, I'm gonna call it Misanthropy. Like, there was no sort of direction or concept I was going for. And once once the music was done, I started working on the lyrics, and I just started, I had a lot of built up tension inside of me. And it was interesting. I actually flew out to the West Coast, and I was going to originally do the vocals here, but Nero and I thought it would be a good idea if I just came out there and just did the vocal. So I was there
Sure.
for,
Yeah.
I want to say, like, I think it was like 4 days,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to just belt out all the lyrics in this hotel room, and kind of did like a back and forth thing. Would work on lyrics and go to go to his studio. And I noticed when I was sitting in this hotel, like completely alone, no distractions or anything, everything that I was writing was just, I was letting go of everything that I uh, held on to for a long time. and just certain my personal experiences that I went through. And it wasn't until it was all wrapped up and I was like, all right, like, I think I said something like, oh yeah, I was definitely uh misanthropic or something like that. Um and I was like, okay, well, this is this is what we're going to call the album. So it definitely sums everything up, and definitely how I was feeling at the time.
Okay. And you mentioned you're working with Nero Bellum. Most people know him from Cyclone 9. Good friend of mine and yours, I'm assuming. What was that collaboration like?
It was wonderful. I actually was interesting is we him and I go way back.
Yeah,
Um
same. I've known Nero for probably 20 years at this point.
yeah, and we actually met through a mutual friend online. Um and we did a remix. He did a remix for one of our old songs. And we just kind of kept in touch throughout the years. And I always loved his writing style. I always thought that he was a great producer, great songwriter, great lyricist.
Absolutely.
Um, and I've always felt that okay, if we were to collaborate on an album, like I think it would be something really, really special. So I reached out to him. We, I pitched him the idea for the record, and he was all about it. He really understood what it was that I was trying to do, and we just kind of just everything just flows together when we're working together. It's funny because like he'll surprise me, and then um and then I'll surprise him. So it's kind of like this like ping pong effect.
Yeah,
So
the album has like blends a lot of heavy electronics and guitars, and there's a lot of like that horror atmospheric stuff that I know Nero is really good at that, having collaborated with him myself on stuff, and
yeah,
the the modular, synths that the magic he does with those. Like during that process, how much of like the sonic landscape there was intentional, or how much just kind of organically came to life?
I think our best work is actually when we do things on the fly.
Yeah.
Um, like for instance, there was a couple times where we were just doing vocals in the studio, and he was just like, "Oh, wait a minute, there was like a bridge." And if you listen to actually the title track, um, during that bridge there, um, there's like a lot of like there's almost like a modular synth solo going on, and he just like got up and he was like, "I have this idea," and just like started going ham on that, and it all like kind of came together, and we actually experimented a lot. He had this like really cheap like maybe $20 plastic microphone that had like the XLR cable like attached to it.
Okay.
um and he's like, yeah, I got this, I think he said at like a Salvation Army or something like that. And
As you
and
do.
at
Yeah.
the yeah, and the end was like a quarter inch jack. So he like plugged into he had this like tiny little orange amp, and he's like, all right, sing through this. And it just gave this like really thin fuzz tone.
Yeah, I bet.
And that was very effective. And I want to say it was songs like Somewhere Broken, and I think Blood on Hands as well. Maybe a couple other songs I don't remember, but it's always, I always like kind of doing those last minute little tweaks and stuff on the fly, because you get so much uh a minor detail could really change a song, I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like.
the whole vibe.
Yeah.
I know for me, one of the highlights is the album. One of the highlights from the album is Straight to the Curb. Just because you and I collaborated and had the pleasure of directing that music video with you.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what was that process like? Like just, yeah, the whole thing, like seeing that song take on a visual form.
I avoided doing music videos for the longest time. And that was simply because I wanted to make sure that it was something that I didn't regret doing down the road. If I'm being quite honest. And I didn't really know what to expect. You definitely kind of showed me the way. Because I've just, I've never been a part of a video, never done anything like that. So, um, yeah, it was a lot of it. I remember we did have we'd have a plan in mind, but it again, it was one of those things where we just kind of did it on the fly. And
Yeah, I remember you came in and there was a concept, and I was like, "Well, that's cool, but let's go over to the LA Zoo."
yeah, yeah,
Just because at the time I was living in a mansion, like, right under the Hollywood sign. Griffith Park was right there, so we were able to drive, it was a 2-minute drive, and we were at the old LA Zoo, and if nobody's ever been there, like, you can still go into the old animal cages, and it's got this very interesting aesthetic, which I think, I think the story for that video is still coming to life even in the editing process for me. See, because we had an idea going into it, and then I had kind of an idea when I was shooting it, but then editing it, I think it really kind of like clicked, and I saw the whole story, and how it came to life. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that whole shoot.
yeah. It was a good day. It was a long day, but it was a good day.
They they usually are, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I know we kinda all I liked how everyone kinda put our heads together, and everybody just kinda made it come to life, and that's one of the most beautiful things about working in this industry. You work with so many different people, and what you originally start off as, it by the very end of it, it's a completely different thing, but it's better than it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and you're right, it was very collaborative. Like, I had ideas, you had ideas. Monique, the girl that's in the video, um, who you and I had toured with, because she was, she was, I think she Cyclone Nine's merch girl, but
Yeah.
she was on the
Yep.
bus with us, so her and I hung out. And then Ryan, he's just great, and I know
Yeah.
he was throwing in cool ideas, and that whole process seemed like a very fun, collaborative, experience. It definitely, yeah, long day though, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember actually walking through the zoo, and I remember seeing, like, a bunch of people just like, "What the hell?" Like, they just saw
Yeah,
me 'cause I was
it's
just in these,
Hollywood
like,
though,
platform. Yeah. Yeah. No, but I felt so out of place at the time because, it's just, like, a nice little park, and, like, people are walking their dogs and stuff like that, and then here comes this guy
yeah,
who
it's
looks like
totally hiking
Frankenstein.
trails. And yeah, people are out for
Yeah.
their like Sunday hike with their dogs and shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, so Corvin, like, going kind of into the live show, like Corvin's Breed shows are, I've seen people online describe them more like rituals than concerts. Like, how do you
Yes.
design that experience like that for the audience?
Um, Not intentionally.
Okay.
Um, I usually, I know for on tour, um, eh, I've had there's some days, you go through the steps, like, the beginning of the tour, you're really excited, and then, midway through you're in the groove of everything, and then towards the end you're just burnt out, and you're either excited uh that it's over with and you get to go home and just chill out for a little bit and actually sleep in your bed, or you're sad because you're going to miss all your friends and you have to go back to reality, and then you know
Yeah, it's always such a blend of those two things for me, because it's like, okay, I'm sleeping in a bed that isn't moving. That's weird, right? That takes a
right,
couple days to get used to. And then, yeah, like on tour, you get into your own bubble. You get into like me, I know I get very regimented. Like I'm up at the same time every day.
right.
Workout schedule, and I eat better on tour than I do not on tour, because it's like, we get whatever we get from catering, and then usually at the end of the night we'll stop at a truck stop somewhere and take showers, and I'll get like a chicken sandwich or a salad, and um it becomes very regimented for me on tour. And then, but there's dogs barking. I don't know if you can hear that. They're like neighborhood dogs.
Yeah,
um Dogs are okay. They can live with it. But yeah, I guess like I was saying, you get into this schedule, but you're kind of disconnected from reality, right? You're not. For me, I almost like, you go to Walmart or you go wherever, and you almost feel disconnected, kind of like walking by those hikers at Griffith Park, right? Like
right.
you feel like, okay, we're sharing the same space, but almost on different planes of existence. And then back from tour, you're suddenly thrown back into reality. You're like, oh, I have to rejoin society. I'm not going on stage tonight.
Yeah, you go back to, you know, go back to reality. Some guys they have to go to a 9 to 5.
Sure.
I know I've had to do that, and that it kind of sucks, because now you're it's like you got lifted up because you were uh you're a rock star, and then just as fast it's like boom, you're a nobody all of a sudden. It's a weird feeling. But uh I think for our shows, I know there's been times where I've gotten very devastating news, and then I'd have to immediately like go on stage and perform,
Wow.
and so it really depends on the mood, like how I'm feeling that day. You might get a an angry, pissed off Matty Corvin, or you might get a really sad Matty Corvin. You might get a really goofy Matty Corvin. I've done some goofy shit for sure. I've grabbed people's cell phones and started like recording us on stage, and that kind of thing. And it all depends on the vibe. But I've always I just I kind of let the music kind of take over me, and I get into this headspace where I become my alter ego. And I guess that process will start once I start getting ready for the show. And I morph into um, the person that I wish I could be every day.
Okay. I can relate to that, where, it's putting on the makeup and kind of, I'm definitely a different person on stage than not on stage, which unfortunately you've encountered firsthand.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But good
Yeah, I'm not
times.
I can definitely relate, because with me, I think any trauma, it's a way for me to take all the negativity in my life and put it into a little
Yeah.
box, and then it lives in that box unless I'm on stage. And now we're like sharing it with the audience. And so like if you catch me in that mode, I'm normally really nice, and then on stage not necessarily as nice. And for anybody wondering what we're talking about, so Matty was playing drums with Seven Factor, and the first night there was some sort of mishap, and I wound up throwing something at you. I think it was maybe a mic stand,
Yeah,
right?
no, it was the cymbal stand.
Oh, that's what oh yeah, I picked up the cymbal stand, and um in Utah, and like we just trashed the stage, and
Yeah.
it was the first night of tour. And I remember the dressing room was above the stage, and the guys from Cyclone 9 were like looking down watching the show. And I remember coming up, and they were just like, fuck, man, like, is that what it's gonna be like every night? You guys are just gonna. And I was like, no, we had a moment.
Well, I remember as well. uh
I felt so bad afterwards. I was like, dude, I'll buy you new shit.
yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, I remember it was a stressful that was a stressful tour,
Yeah.
in general because it started off at the beginning where because we had that Dean endorsement, and
Yeah.
I had that D drum endorsement,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all of
Yeah. They
our
were,
shit didn't arrive until, like, as we were just packing up the trailer,
yeah.
and
The guitars and the
the
drums
FedEx guy,
showed
like,
up
just showed up right in time, and so because
hours
I
before
wasn't
leaving.
yeah, and I didn't, uh because we weren't traveling together. I wasn't on the bus with you guys, because I was with the R. Frankenstein guys. Uh, we ended up having there was no time for me to get the drums out of the boxes. So I remember while Cyclone 9 was sound checking, I was sitting on the floor, they just taking everything out, seeing it for the first time, tuning up as fast as I can, and yeah, I'm like, okay, this is gonna work.
And then I came and
No,
broke it all. I yeah, you were super cool about that, and I'm so sorry I did that.
it's, it's
We
all
had a
good.
moment, but the rest of the tour was so much fun, you know. It was just that first night,
Yeah,
like we just definitely destroyed the stage. Like um you know, and it kind of just that even it reminds me of like 90s industrial bands. Like not that that's what we were going for. It was just one of those
right.
moments, but um
You're listening to Yes, Quit Your Day Job with Seven Dunbar. Don't forget to subscribe at yesquityourdayjob.com or watch full episodes on YouTube. The show is also available anywhere podcasts are heard. Let's get back into it.
do you think industrial still has that like same hunger for spectacle that it did in the 90s, or is it evolved into something different now?
I'm noticing now that people are like younger, like kids are getting into industrial music now, and they're mixing it with other genres, which I think is fantastic.
Okay.
You know, um, I'm trying to think of like I know that band, Horror. They do a lot of that,
Oh,
where
okay.
they'll
Yeah, yeah.
mix, like, hip hop with industrial music, and now you got Lady Gaga that just came out with an industrial album. So I keep seeing it evolve and come back and then fade away, come back, fade away, and it's morphed into something else, and, I think that's fantastic, um, but I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think industrial music will ever be what it once was, with the Nine Inch Nails, and Skinny Puppy and KMFDM, bands like that.
We our the episode before this one was actually with Sasha from KMFDM. So he was just on the podcast. That's when you bring them up.
Right
Um
on.
yeah. I Now you know what's interesting is that I think it's secular. I think that all music, but it also industrial goes in like a almost like a 20-year cycle, right? Where whatever was happening 20 years ago, suddenly the new generation gets exposed to it and it becomes new again, as opposed to like something that's been around a while. And I remember there was this moment where industrial music was in the mainstream. And, you know, you had the Crow soundtrack, which I think is one of the best industrial soundtracks there is.
Yeah.
But like a major hit movie like that, and all the music on it's industrial. You have bands like Thrill Kill Cult, you know, that up
Yeah.
until then, like if you weren't in the goth clubs, you really didn't know about them too much. And now they're in one of the biggest blockbuster movies, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the industrial aesthetic bled over, you know, the Matrix and you know, even I look at like that movie Tank Girl and it looks like a Ministry music video, right? Like
Yeah.
the way everybody is dressed and it's this post-apocalyptic but also shiny at the same time. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. I think with Lady Gaga, you know, and a few others that are kind of rediscovering or discovering industrial music for the first time. I think it'll have a resurgence. So hopefully, you know, at least
Yeah.
hopefully for us, it does.
Yeah. I mean, I like all different genres of music.
Same.
I don't have like, people just see me and they're like, oh, you just listen to industrial music and that's all you're about. You're a one trick pony. And I'm like, you have no idea. um, but I think it's great that these younger bands, I mean, even for us, in Corvins Breed, we don't do, we're not like your typical industrial band. We're more rock and roll, if anything. Um,
Well, yeah, yeah.
but we're too heavy for rock, so we're more metal. But it's like all these different things, and I mean, we even have some trap elements into our music. I think industrial is one of those things where it just can go off and it will evolve and keep evolving
Yeah.
until the end of time. And now I'm even seeing um like, I know we mentioned Gaga just a second ago, but like Bring Me the Horizon and Bad Omens and these other bands are really, really popular. They incorporate that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think we're seeing a resurgence of just rock as a whole, where you have bands like Sleep Token and Deftones again, and like these
Yeah,
bands are dominating the charts right now. And for a long time, you wouldn't see any rock bands on the chart. Like the closest thing would be like 21 Pilots or something, right? And
right, right.
so, I think we're definitely seeing a resurgence. And it's funny you mentioned like the rock band, but then some shows you're too heavy. Like we always had a thing where we'd show up to one show and it was all metal bands. Like we did this. It was almost like a death metal festival in Houston one year. That part of our tour routing, we wound up on this festival, and we went on like pretty late in the night. We went right on before this band called Goat Whore. And if you know us and you know Goat Whore, like they're much more metal, much heavier than we are. And so we come out and we have the two girls on keyboards and we're wearing makeup and we have, latex and vinyl and all, sparks flying all over the stage. And it's like, oh, these guys are an industrial band. And then we go and we do
Yeah.
an industrial music festival and we show up with drums and they're like, you guys have a live drummer? Like, oh, you're a metal band?
Yeah.
So it depends on we always were like hovering right in that industrial metal kind of place.
Right.
Um, I know you've worked behind the scenes. We mentioned with Cyclone 9, not just as a collaborator, but like literally as part of their crew. How did that come about?
Um, well, it was actually, um, I've always kept in touch with the Cyclone 9 guys, and we were always close. And Nero was actually uh tour manager for Scold,
Yeah,
and they needed somebody, and so he asked me if I knew anybody for the job. And I've always been a fan of Tim's work. And so I was like, well, I mean, I have nothing going on right now. I'll I'll do that, or I'll give it a go. And so we set that up. I did the tour. Then I just after that, I just kept getting calls, and I
that's
started
how
working
that works.
for.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely it's definitely one of those things where hard work, someone who's very determined, and someone who is just a go-getter will get you to places that you would never think of. A lot of people think, I get asked all the time, how do you keep getting these gigs? And, simply just, you know, work as if all eyes are always on you,
yeah,
and
and
I've even landed, I also did, I worked for Mortis as well. We were on tour with Mayhem.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I a lot of these tours I'll wear multiple hats, just because the reality of what we do is that the money isn't there like it used to be. unless you are somebody like The Weeknd, you're not like the budget is so short. I've seen massive bands with a crew of 5 people, if that.
Yeah.
And so when I was working for Mortis, like I was his I originally got hired to be his assistant, and then and we were supposed to share a bus with the Mayhem guys, but that didn't work out. So Mortis had to basically like get his own wheels. So we got a van, and he's like, "Hey, can you drive?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like
Yeah.
cool, I sure." So I did that, and then his merch guy actually couldn't show up until halfway through the tour. So
Oh,
he
shit.
was like, "I need somebody for merch as well. Can you do that?" And I was just like, "Yeah, no problem." So I did. I was his assistant. I did driving. Uh, did and sold merch. You know, so
Wow.
that's a like most days I'm on the road and I'm doing crew work. I'm just go go go. I don't ever get to I'm treated as if I'm a part of the band, but I don't get to sit and relax like some of the other guys get to. And some guys, they like to keep a schedule with workouts and getting some other work done. I know some people, they'll have a remote job or some other job, and they'll be doing that on the road, and that'll be part of their daily schedule.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah.
The music business can be brutal. What's the biggest lesson you've learned as an independent artist?
As an artist, I will say that consistency is key. I think that it's really, really difficult to do, especially if you're an independent artist and you don't really have the resources and the support from a label. I know for myself, I've had to work really shitty jobs to be able to pay for, okay, I have this promotion thing. I need to hire on an artist to make this for me. So now I have to pick up extra hours at work, things like that. And it's a constant grind. As far as me being doing crew work, um, you know, it's something that I've learned was being prompt, being organized is probably the two biggest things that I've learned. And honestly, music in general, I never really understood this when, I remember in 2012 where like the big thing was like people say, "Oh, this band saved my life," or "music saved my life," or something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, I am a firm believer of that now. And it made me get my health in check. It made me get organized. It helped me. I kind of grew up with it. It helped me grow up, which was really interesting. But there's nothing else that I've wanted to do. And realizing that if you want to make it in this business, you got to put in the work, and it's not just putting out your music or networking with people, but you got to put in the work within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That is great advice. That's absolutely true. Uh, if you can if you could collaborate with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a really, really, really tough question.
First person comes to your mind.
I would say I've always I would always wanted to collaborate with somebody like Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay. Very good
I
choice.
kind of grew up with Ozzy, and not like physically, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
but My parents were they were fans of like the 80s, 70s music, and I remember when he had that TV show, and that would always be on. And even like all the way up until he passed away, he was working with younger artists.
Yeah.
And so he's someone that really understood music, and understood that it, you can't just be stuck in your own ways all the time. So I think he would be him, and I'd say probably Trent Reznor.
Yeah. I think Trent's on my list too, is for sure. Um, Give me a tour horror story. Like, what is the worst gig experience you've ever had, other than me throwing a drum set at you?
So I think the worst experience I've ever had was we played in San Francisco. We were it was Corvins Breed, Cyclone 9, and we were actually sharing a van with our Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
And so after our show in San Francisco, we were like, okay, we'll get a hotel somewhere on the way to the next venue, somewhere out of San Francisco, preferably. And so we're on the road. We're starting to get really tired, and we see like uh, an exit for hotels. So we ended up going to this Motel 6, and it was all gated. And I'm like, oh man, like this is like some really bougie hotel or Motel 6, right? So we go into the office, we go into the front desk, and uh we were like, hey, we got this 15 passenger van with a 6x12 trailer. You think this will fit? Like you have room for us? And the guy's like, I'll open the gate for you. You guys just see if you can fit. And so
Gates open, figure it out.
yeah. And he's like, if it works, we'll get you a room. If not, then whatever. So my drummer, Davey, runs out, and it looks like from his perspective where he was, it looks like there would have been plenty enough room for us. So we get the room, everything's good. We go to park, and we're stuck.
Shit.
We see some guy he was shooting up something. It wasn't heroin, but he was like throwing the needles off the balcony and just tweaking out. Next thing you know, we see like a bunch of heads pop up from behind this like brick wall, right? And they all like surround, like we are at this point surrounded by all these strangers, these strange men. And I honestly thought there was never in my life that I thought I was gonna die more than that night specifically. And the guy was just like, oh, y'all on YouTube? And thank God for their drummer, Jimmy. He had a knife on him, and he's like, get it. He's like, get away, get out of here. And Jimmy's like, I can't deal with this. So he just like flips the van around, and he got us out of there. But I comes to find out that wherever we were was one of the most dangerous cities in California.
Okay.
Can't remember the name of it. But I was I was kind of pissed because I was like, you got all you are Frankenstein guys. You guys are all from California. You didn't know that this was like one of the
Nobody
most.
knew this?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was probably one of the craziest stories. I mean, there's definitely have been a multiple of other instances, but that one sticks out the most for sure.
What's one piece of gear you couldn't live without?
One piece of gear that I couldn't live without. That is a great question. I would say, give me a guitar, any
Okay.
guitar, or any sort of synthesizer,
Which is
and
funny
I'm
because
good.
I met you as a drummer and then a vocalist.
Yeah, Yeah.
So you're like, look, I
I
play
could,
drums, I sing, but I guitar or synth.
yeah.
What what what's the one thing you wish somebody had told you when you were first starting out?
Patience is everything. Less is always more. When I started out, I always I was just so ambitious and I just really wanted to perform more than anything. And I think when I started out, I did too much too fast.
Okay.
And I unfortunately back then I had a lot of people that flaked on me and caused us to cancel shows and things like that. Um, which that really bummed me out because not only did I want to perform, but I didn't, you know, a lot of people were looking forward to seeing us play. So, it's never good to cancel a show. I understand, sometimes you have to, but I think I wish that things were paced better back
Okay.
then.
I always end the show where I kind of turn the tables a little bit, and I always open up the floor for you to ask me a question. So what would be a question you would want to ask me?
Who was your favorite artist that you have ever worked with and why?
Damn. Favorite artist that I've ever worked with. I don't, I probably would say Chris Verena from Nine Inch Nails, you know?
Okay, of
I mean, so obviously there's the fan in me that has always been a, Nine Inch Nails fan. They've been a definite influence.
course.
Chris and I met because he was playing drums for a band called Army of the Universe, and we were on tour with KMFDM. They were the direct support, so they went on right before KMFDM. We went on right before them.
Okay,
And so I met Chris on that tour and we stayed in touch. And when we got off tour, I'd started a new album cycle. So I had this new album I wanted to do, and I asked him if he wanted to produce it. And I was working at KDS Studios in Orlando at the time, huge facility, large SSL consoles, and um, wound up flying Chris out to Orlando, and we tracked all the music over the course of like 3 or 4 days. And it was just um, a great experience because like watching him on a large console and just on Pro Tools, like he is a master. He's been doing this since Pro Tools first came out, right? The Nine Inch Nails guys were one of the first ones to really they were very early adopters into Pro Tools and just that technology when everybody else was still on tape. And so to watch that and then, hear some of the cool stories of when he was in Nine Inch Nails and when he was in Marilyn Manson and stuff like that. And we became really good friends. I'm still collaborating with him to this day. We talk, probably once a week about gear and other random things going on in the world and in music. And, yeah, like I wound up, so we did all the music and then I went twice out to his studio in LA and did the vocals in two different sessions for about like 4 or 5 days each time. And so that's, as far as working with, that was one of the ones that, yeah, it was just such a great experience. And he pushed me kind of like your collaboration with Nero. Like he pushed me past my limits of what I thought I could do as an artist. So, I showed up in LA and still did that damn dog. That's not my dog. My dogs are sweet little angels. But yeah, I showed up there without lyrics and I'm writing lyrics and like one of the songs you know me, like I don't drink. I've never done drugs in my life. And,
Right.
but I'd gotten real sick and I went to the emergency room and I had this like just terrible cough and chest cold. And they gave me codeine cough syrup. And I've never really taken cough syrup or codeine. And I didn't understand how it works. So I thought whenever you were like coughing, you did a shot, right? And so
Oh
I'm
no.
tracking vocals and I would get like 2 or 3 verses in and I would do a shot of the cough syrup with the codeine in it. And then I would do like a couple other lines and I would do another shot because my voice wasn't feeling right. And so in the span of an hour, I went through the entire bottle. Um, and I didn't have lyrics, and I'm just like making shit up on the fly, but I'm like really fucked up on cough syrup. And so that's I'll let y'all figure out what song that was. It was Human Factors Lab, and it was off our Suicide Diaries album we do with Chris. But I was talking about it later. We were listening to it on the way back days later, and I was like, the fuck was I talking about in this song? And the rest of the band was like, okay, we're glad you said it. We've all been wondering what the fuck is this song even about, you know? So yeah, but yeah, when we were when we were tracking the instrumentals, we went to Disney World. Chris is a huge fan of Disney. And so, some friends of mine hooked us up with Disney passes, and we went to Blue Man Group, and neither of us wanted to go to Blue Man Group. We were exhausted from just working and then going to Disney all day. And like
Right.
anybody who's been to Disney or any theme park, like at the end of the day, if you've been there all day, like the Florida heat and the walking and it's
Yep.
draining. And so we didn't want to go to Blue Man Group, and we went because somebody did us a favor and they asked us to go. And so we're like, all right, we'll go. And, it was amazing. It was one of the most inspiring shows, and we didn't know they knew we were there. So as we're leaving, somebody like calls us over, and they like called us by name. We're like, well, okay. And we walked over, and they're like, yeah, come backstage. And we walk backstage, and there's the three blue men playing ping pong, and they just stop and look up at us, and they go back to playing ping pong. We're like, what the fuck is happening right now? And so they're going, and then they just stop and they're staring at us. And we're staring back. Nobody's saying a word. And then finally Chris was like, all right, somebody's got to say something. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Right,
And,
right.
and then they broke character, and they were like so super cool. They took us up on stage and showed us all like the instruments, and they have some like real cool custom percussion and custom string instruments and stuff too. So yeah, that was so for those reasons, that's probably the most fun I've had working with somebody. And then I've had the opportunity to work with some like really well-known artists, and there's always a little bit of like, you know, somebody's coming in and you're like I remember Iggy Azalea coming into the studio, and she was coming in and hanging out with there was another artist that I was working with, and she was there with him, and I didn't know she was Australian. And the whole time I'm like listening to her talk, like it just didn't compute. I'm like, why does she sound
Yeah.
like, you know? So it's always those kind of cool environments, or like doing live events. I've worked a lot of Super Bowls and a lot of like WrestleMania, and to be the
Yeah, I remember you
energy.
were telling me about that.
Yeah. And so just like, I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm not a football fan, but the energy
Mhm.
of those events and being backstage and seeing the artists and them getting ready, and what like the machine it takes. It's like what you and I do on tour, but on such a grand scale, you know? So those are always
Right.
enjoyable. But
Oh yeah, for sure. I always found that the big production events were so fascinating because there's
well,
so
I
many
go there.
different groups of people that work for different people just to make this giant thing come to life, and it's incredible.
I remember we did an NBA All-Star game once, and I get hired on for audio. But when I got there, I was told I wasn't doing audio. My job was, we had this stage, and it was like a puzzle pieces, right? So they're
Mhm.
cut into these sections that are like the size of a car, and they're all different shapes. And for 2 or 3 days, all we did was we lined up, and we had this guy who was like a drill instructor and with a stopwatch, and everybody on one corner of whatever their puzzle piece was, and you're running out in a specific order, and you go to a specific place. So what that does is the whole stage arrives, all the pieces just kind of come together instantaneously, and there's somebody jumping on top, and they have a key, and they're locking the pieces together. And it's the reason for this is because it's a live event,
Mm.
and the halftime show was Pharrell was leading it. It was right when that Get Happy song came out. but then we also had like Snoop Dogg and Busta Rhymes and Diddy and Nelly and I can't even remember. Janelle Monáe was there, and yeah, it was a lot of people, but it was like this all star cast. So we had to, in that like 4 minute or whatever it is commercial break between the basketball game is live, it goes to commercial. We have to assemble an entire stage for the artist to come out on. So, yeah, like different groups of people working in tandem to make sure, because it's happening one way or the other. It's a live event, right? So
Yeah.
there's no
I
leeway.
know.
There's no delay in the show.
No, no, not at all. And I
Yeah.
know when we were on when I was with Mortis, we would get to the venues. Now that was the first ever tour myself that I wasn't doing small clubs or anything like that. This was all theaters,
Wow.
and everything was all Live Nation, or every show was a Live Nation event. And so we would show up, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, gonna load in, do the thing. But there's a whole like entourage of people that work for Live Nation that
Yeah,
are
there's a crew
they're
there ready to
loaders.
already load. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I don't have to do anything.
Like I made the big time. That's awesome.
Right, right. So, I mean, of course, and then once we got inside, we had to set up our own gear and stuff like that. But, um,
Ridiculous.
yeah, it's just crazy just coming from the world that I'm used to. I just wasn't really prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a glimpse had that same feeling when I started doing like large arena shows, and I'd mentioned Nine Inch Nails, and I was a part of the Tension tour for probably about a week, and seeing, like, okay, this is like not just an industrial band, it's freaking Nine Inch Nails, and seeing it on an arena level and how that's all put together and how that's done. And um yeah, you definitely start going, man, all right, this is goals, this is where we need to get to.
Right, right, exactly.
Well, Matty, this has been incredible. It's been so good catching up. I honestly, you and I,
Absolutely.
it has been way too long since we've just chatted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but so before we wrap up, like, tell people where they can find you online, where they can check out Misanthropy, and of course, watch the Straight to the Curb video because I directed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Where can people find you at? Give us all your social.
you can find us on YouTube. Instagram is Corvins Breed Band. My Instagram handle is Matty Corvin Official, all one word. Um, and if you're interested in buying any music, any merch, you can just go to Corvins Breed Bandcamp. I think uh, I don't know what the URL is, and it's probably very long. Uh, but yeah, or I mean, Spotify, Apple, we're on everything. I don't think you can't go on any website and we're not on it.
Go on and
Um,
type your name in, and people will find it.
yeah,
Uh, That's
exactly.
awesome. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to that people should know about?
Um, we are going to actually, on the discussion of Misanthropy, we are going to be releasing Misanthropy Deluxe, which will have a couple bonus tracks and some remixes from some friends of mine. So looking forward to that. There's no release date on it as of yet, but that is something that we are in the works of.
Well, let me know when you want the Seven Factor remix. I got you, bro.
Absolutely. I was actually just going to ask you about that, funny enough. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, seriously, yeah. We'll connect after this, and I'm happy to throw down a remix, man.
absolutely.
And that lines up because we have new stuff coming out too. But I
Hell
can
yeah.
plug that all day on my own. But yeah, man. So yeah, thanks again. It was great having you. This is Yes, Quit Your Day Job. Once again, I'm Seven Dunbar, and we'll see you next time.
That was Matty Corvin of Corvins Breed. Check out his album Misanthropy and keep an eye out for the deluxe edition with remixes. For more episodes, visit yesquityourdayjob.com, subscribe on YouTube, or find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening to Yes, Quit Your Day Job.